Tonight on AMC, on Saturday Classics, Humphrey Bogart, Peter Ustinov, and Aldo Ray star as benevolent Devil's Island escapees in the breezy black comedy We're No Angels. Then, the early life of the world's most famous detective is revealed in Barry Levinson's fanciful adventure, Young Sherlock Holmes. And on American Pop, mad scientist Whit Bissell carries on his family's gruesome tradition in I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, Vincent Price duels with Boris Karloff in Roger Corman's adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's immortal tale of dueling magicians, The Raven. Then Nick Clooney presents interviews, stories, and classic movie moments in AMC Behind the Screen. And Sheriff James Stewart has a showdown with desperado Henry Fonda in the widescreen version of the taut psychological western, Firecreek. That's all tonight on AMC. Tonight on AMC, John Wayne lives it up on an idyllic Pacific island in John Ford's breezy roughhouse comedy, Donovan's Reef. Then on Hollywood Reel-to-Reel, Hidden Hollywood 2 unlocks the Fox studio vaults to unearth some rare musical outtakes. And on the Reel-to-Reel feature, Danny Kaye cuts loose in a dual role in the classic Fox musical comedy, On the Riviera. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, scheming editor Cary Grant engages in a hilarious battle of the sexes with reporter Rosalind Russell in Howard Hawks' comedy classic, His Girl Friday. Then, on John Wayne's Day, the Duke is a hell-raising sea captain searching for pearls in the East Indies in Wake of the Red Witch. And on Director's Showcase, bookworm Gary Cooper falls for sexy singer Barbara Stanwyck in Howard Hawks' screwball farce, Ball of Fire. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, Hollywood Reel-to-Reel presents the original documentary, Attack of the 50-Foot Monster Mania. Then, on the Reel-to-Reel feature, the Frankenstein monster goes to Japan and battles Godzilla's pal Baragon in Frankenstein Conquers the World.
And Richard Harris tracks down the men who left him to die in the gritty survival tale, Man in the Wilderness. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, Elvis Presley stars as a singing helicopter pilot in the breezy musical Paradise Hawaiian Style. Then, on American Pop, legendary Hepcat band leader Louis Prima is profiled in the swinging documentary Louis Prima, The Wildest. And on the American Pop feature, Louis Prima and his band perform in the Jump and Jive musical Hey Boy, Hey Girl. That's all tonight on AMC. Tomorrow night on AMC, hang on for your life as Gene Hackman leads a capsized cast in Irwin Allen's classic disaster movie, The Poseidon Adventure. Then, George C. Scott plays a scientist whose talking dolphins become involved in an assassination plot in Mike Nichols' The Day of the Dolphin. And host John Burke presents interviews, behind-the-scenes footage, and classic movie moments on AMC Behind the Screen. That's all tomorrow on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, on the AMC Effects feature, a pair of colossal prehistoric pterodactyls run amok in the classic Japanese monster mash, Rodan. Then, Tarzan takes on a cult of murderous leopard men in the widescreen version of Tarzan and the Great River. And if you missed the first part of tonight's AMC Effects, here's another chance to catch Cinema Secrets, Cinema Super Spies. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, on Hollywood Fashion Collection, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward star in From the Terrace, featuring costumes by Trivia. Then, Elvis Presley is drafted and puts some rock and roll into the Army in the widescreen version of G.I. Blues. And Hollywood Fashion Machine, Dressed to Thrill, reveals how costume designers created sexy outfits while skirting censorship. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, Scream Queen Fay Wray really has something to shout about when a gigantic ape carries her to the top of the Empire State Building in the timeless classic King Kong. Then, it's AMC Effects. First, learn the tricks of scene-stealing animal stars on Cinema Secrets, Leading Animals. And on the AMC Effects feature, special effects pioneer Willis O'Brien reprises his landmark work on King Kong in the spectacular sequel, Son of Kong. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, it's AMC Effects. First, learn the tricks of scene-stealing animal stars on Cinema Secrets, Leading Animals. Then, on the AMC Effects feature, special effects pioneer Willis O'Brien reprises his landmark work on King Kong in the spectacular sequel, Son of Kong. And O'Brien teamed up with effects wizard Ray Harryhausen for the tale of a giant African ape that's brought to Hollywood in Mighty Joe Young. That's all tonight on AMC. Tonight on AMC, on the AMC Effects feature, special effects pioneer Willis O'Brien reprises his landmark work on King Kong in the spectacular sequel, Son of Kong. Then, O'Brien teams up with effects wizard Ray Harryhausen for the tale of a giant African ape that's brought to Hollywood in Mighty Joe Young. And if you missed the first part of tonight's AMC Effects, here's another chance to catch an episode of our original series, Cinema Secrets, Leading Animals. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, Jack Lemmon cracks up when he's fired and robbed on the same day in Neil Simon's The Prisoner of Second Avenue, co-starring Anne Bancroft. Then, Hollywood Fashion Machine, Studio Style Wars, explores the unique fashion styles of classic movie studios. And Walter Matthau gets a crash course in cheating from his swinging neighbor in the widescreen version of A Guide for the Married Man. That's all tonight on AMC.
Tonight on AMC, Gary Cooper stars in William Wyler's heartwarming family favorite, Friendly Persuasion. Then, host John Burke presents interviews, behind-the-scenes footage, and classic movie moments on AMC Behind the Screen. And AMC presents Universal Hitchcock as Robert Cummings chases spies from California to a classic climax atop the Statue of Liberty in Alfred Hitchcock's breathless thriller, Saboteur. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, Elvis Presley is a singing rodeo star working at an all-girl dude ranch in Tickle Me. Then, ring in the new year with Abbott and Costello as Bud and Lou try to figure out who's on first in the naughty 90s. And the boys tangle with Dracula, the Wolfman, and the Frankenstein monster in the horror comedy classic Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, Robert Redford stars as an egotistical skier who goes for the gold in the Olympics in Downhill Racer, co-starring Gene Hackman. Then, Silver Studios gets a new boss on the next episode of The Lot, New Mogul in Town. And Robert Redford and Mia Farrow star in a lavish version of F. Scott Fitzgerald's masterpiece, The Great Gatsby. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, on Tough Guys, Richard Widmark leads a rough-and-ready platoon of Marines in Halls of Montezuma. Then, on Director's Showcase, Betty Davis and Joan Crawford are twisted sisters in the widescreen version of Robert Aldridge's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And Peter Sellers is Inspector Clouseau in Blake Edwards' classic Pink Panther farce, A Shot in the Dark. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, celebrate Memorial Day with AMC's Pearl Harbor All-Star Movie Salute. First, Cliff Robertson stars as JFK in the World War II adventure, PT-109. Then, Behind the Screen Special Edition, Pearl Harbor looks at the making of Michael Bay's summer blockbuster. And John Wayne leads an all-star cast in Otto Preminger's war epic, In Harm's Way. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, set sail with Henry Fonda, James Cagney, and Jack Lemmon in Mr. Roberts. Then, Whoopi Goldberg narrates a profile of the first African-American actress to win an Oscar in AMC's original documentary, Beyond Terra, The Extraordinary Life of Hattie McDaniel. And on Film Preservation Classics, Alec Baldwin hosts the widescreen version of Stanley Doneman's Charade, starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them. Tonight on AMC, it's AMC Effects with host Stan Winston. First, visual effects wizards put you in the driver's seat for a rubber-burning episode of Cinema Secrets, Road Rage. Then, on the AMC Effects feature, Vincent Price is trapped in a web of witchcraft in Roger Corman's The Haunted Palace. And Betty Davis gives a chilling performance as a sinister nursemaid in The Nanny. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, Celebrate Thanksgiving with the beloved holiday tale, Miracle on 34th Street, starring Edmund Gwenn as Kris Kringle. Then, go behind the scenes of the classic movie on a new episode of the original AMC series, Backstory, Miracle on 34th Street. And stuff yourself with a special encore presentation of Miracle on 34th Street. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, it's AMC Effects with host Stan Winston. First, don't blink or you miss how special effects artists use breakthrough camera tricks on Cinema Secrets, Snapshot. Then, on the AMC Effects feature, The Pods Are Coming, and you're next as Kevin McCarthy stars in Don Siegel's sci-fi classic, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And lock the doors and stay out of the shower. Anthony Perkins slashes his way through Alfred Hitchcock's legendary shocker, Psycho. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, Backstory, The Robe takes a behind-the-scenes look at the making of the religious epic that was the first movie filmed in CinemaScope. Then, Tippi Hedren and Rod Taylor run for their lives in Alfred Hitchcock's apocalyptic horror classic, The Birds. And Catherine Michon hosts Girl Genius Night at the Movies, as Jeff Daniels stars as a recently divorced womanizer in Love Hurts. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them. Tonight on AMC, Tippi Hedren and Rod Taylor run for their lives in Alfred Hitchcock's apocalyptic horror classic, The Birds. Then, Catherine Michon hosts Girl Genius Night at the Movies, as Jeff Daniels stars as a recently divorced womanizer in Love Hurts. And Backstory, The Robe, takes a behind-the-scenes look at the making of the religious epic that was the first movie filmed in CinemaScope. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, John Wayne and Robert Mitchum are at their brawny best as they team up in Howard Hawks' classic western, El Dorado. Then, Leo searches for the studio's new child star on the next episode of The Lot, Kids. And on Superstar Sunday, Robert Redford smacks one out of the park as a slugger with a magical bat in Barry Levinson's baseball classic, The Natural. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, our Hits of the 80s weekend continues as John Travolta goes looking for love in all the wrong places in Urban Cowboy. Then, Deborah Winger heats up the screen with Richard Gere in the romantic hit An Officer and a Gentleman. And Backstory, Die Hard, goes behind the scenes of the action classic starring Bruce Willis. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, on Girl Genius Night at the Movies with Catherine Michon, it's the classic musical, The King and I, starring Yul Brynner and Deborah Carr. Then, Backstory, Moulin Rouge, looks at the making of the dazzling musical starring Nicole Kidman. And Gregory Peck stars in AMC's big-ticket movie, The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them. Tonight on AMC, Backstory, Moulin Rouge looks at the making of the dazzling musical starring Nicole Kidman. Then, Gregory Peck stars in AMC's big-ticket movie, The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit. And on Girl Genius Night at the Movies with Catherine Michon, it's the classic musical, The King and I, starring Yul Brynner and Deborah Carr. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, host John Burke presents interviews, behind-the-scenes footage, and classic movie moments on AMC Behind the Screen. Then, retired Sheriff Charlton Heston is hunted by an escaped killer in The Last Hard Men. And stay tuned for an encore presentation of our original series, AMC Behind the Screen, hosted by John Burke. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, on Director's Showcase with Neil Gabler, Richard Dreyfuss stars in Paul Mazursky's lunatic farce, Moon Over Parador. Then, James Stewart and Dean Martin hit the trail in Bandolero. And on Tough Guys, hosted by Joni Lore, Charles Bronson and Lee Marvin face off in the rugged Canadian wilderness in Death Hunt. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, our Demon Seeds Festival continues as Sam Neill stars in the third chilling chapter of the Omen series, The Final Conflict. Then, on American Pop, evil genius Vincent Price returns from the dead and Dr. Phibes rises again. And on Monster Madness, psychologist Dana Andrews takes on a cult of devil worshippers in the horror classic, Curse of the Demon. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them. Tonight on AMC, on American Pop, evil genius Vincent Price returns from the dead and Dr. Phibes rises again. Then, on Monster Madness, psychologist Dana Andrews takes on a cult of devil worshippers in the horror classic, Curse of the Demon. And Backstory, The Towering Inferno, goes behind the scenes of Irwin Allen's blockbuster disaster movie. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, on the AMC Effects feature hosted by Stan Winston, Bruce Lee, A Warrior's Journey, features long-missing footage of the martial arts legend. Then, Clint Eastwood stars in the suspenseful prison yarn, Escape from Alcatraz. And if you missed the first part of tonight's AMC Effects, here's another chance to catch cinema secrets hanging by a thread. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, strap yourself in for a wild ride as cop Keanu Reeves tries to put the brakes on bus bomber Dennis Hopper in the high-octane thriller, Speed. Then, stay tuned for a behind-the-scenes look at the movie on Backstory, Speed. And do the time warp again on American Pop with the ultimate cult classic, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, Tom Hanks stars in the shocking and shameless comedy that truly made him a star, Bachelor Party. Then, just try to forget the scene where Laurence Olivier asked Dustin Hoffman, "Is it safe?" in the terrifying thriller, Marathon Man. And Hammer horror legend Peter Cushing is out for blood in The Brides of Dracula on Monster Madness. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Tonight on AMC, on Superstar Sunday, acting greats Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier try to outduel each other in the suspenseful thriller, Marathon Man. Then, Charlton Heston plays a retired sheriff who's hunted by an escaped killer in The Last Hard Man. And Orson Welles directs and stars in the restored version of his crime classic, Touch of Evil. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.